Hi everyone, and welcome to the first of 2 reading wrap-ups this week. I've decided I want to go back to weekly reading wrap-ups. My reading has really picked up recently, so I'm going to be doing a wrap-up of several books that I've read over the last few weeks, and this wrap-up will contain 8 books because then tomorrow you get to see my weekly reading wrap-up for the week just gone. So we're doing 8 books, so I need to crack on. The first book I want to talk to you about today is a book that I received from the publisher via NetGalley in return for an honest review, and that is A Change of Heart by Sonali Dev. And this is something that is slightly out of my comfort zone. It is an adult fiction book. It's part romance and it's a contemporary and it's very diverse. But despite this not being something that I would typically pick up, I still gave it 4 stars. So this novel is about a doctor named Nikhil, who I will refer to as Nick for the rest of this video because he is referred to as Nick in the novel from there on out. And he lost his wife Jen in mysterious circumstances, and he's trying to get on with his life while also trying to get to the bottom of what happened and how his wife really died, and he's hired a private investigator and all this, that and the other because he doesn't believe the story that he has been told about how she actually passed away. One night Nick meets a woman named Jess who claims to have had a heart transplant, and now has Jen's heart. And obviously this sends Nick reeling with so many different emotions. He doesn't know what to think. He doesn't know whether to be hugging her and be like, I'm so close to Jen again, or whether he doesn't even believe her, or there's so many things going through Nick's head, understandably so. And so this takes us on an exciting journey through turmoil and so many different emotions. It's a roller coaster as he continues to try to discover what actually happened to his wife. I'd say the reason why I gave this book 4 stars rather than the 5 is because it felt just too long. It was a little bit too fleshed out in places where it didn't need to be fleshed out. This is something that is a real pet hate of mine. I've got no issues with long books if everything in there feels like it should be there, but when it feels like it's just unnecessary fleshing out to get a higher page count, that bothers me, and I felt that happened a little bit within this novel. I feel like perhaps I only gave this book 4 stars rather than 5 as well because I perhaps wasn't at the right point in my life to read this book, in the sense of I was very busy at the time. I had so much going on with work and with life that I wasn't able to always dedicate the time I wanted to dedicate to it. So it took me a couple of months to read this book, I think, and that was a real shame. So it meant that I didn't get quite as connected as I perhaps would have done if I'd had the time to dedicate to it, but all the same it would have still taken me quite a while because it was just unnecessarily long. The novel kicks off in a really gripping way. The writing is really easy to pull yourself into, and I was hooked, and I'd say that I stopped being hooked in that silly middle section that happens in so many novels. The beginning is strong, the end is strong, the middle just flopped quite a bit for me. The subject matter also made it a little bit difficult to always dedicate as much time as I wanted to it, because sometimes you'd be sat there and you'd just be crying your eyes out and you'd be thinking, I can't do this to myself anymore. I cannot read about so much sadness, so much betrayal and questioning of what has happened, and it's such a difficult book to read in that sense that I really struggled, and that led to me falling into that midway slump. But as I said, from then on it really picked back up for me, and so I felt this was overall a fantastic novel. If you're looking for something a little bit different, if you want to go outside of your comfort zone, this might be the book for you, because it is a roller coaster, but it also, I wouldn't say it's necessarily an important book, but it opens your eyes to the effect of organ donors in the world as well. And so, yeah, highly recommend this one if it sounds like your cup of tea. If it doesn't, then I probably wouldn't go for it, because like I said, that middle section is just really difficult to pull yourself through. The pacing takes a complete dip. You have to slog through that part. All the same, I really enjoyed this novel, so I would definitely be trying something else by this author. The next book I want to talk to you about is The Queen by Kira Cass, which is a novella from the Selection series. and this follows Queen Amberley and what happened during her personal selection. And I gave this book 5 stars. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Obviously, with it being a novella, it was a really quick read, but I also found it really gripping because it's been quite a while since I've picked anything up from the selection, so I was so happy to be back in that world. It was amazing to learn so much more about Queen Amberley and why she is how she is, but also you learned so much about the king and why he is how he is. And I'd say that you could pick this book up from almost anywhere in the selection series. I've personally only read the first 3 books. I've not bothered with the other 2 spin-offy ones yet, and it worked fine for me where I picked it up. You could probably pick it up after book 1 or book 2 just as easily too. And so I really enjoyed this, and it made me really want to get back into the selection world. Then we have the Fireside Grown-Up Guide to the Hangover, and this is part of the Ladybird collection for grown-ups, and this was so funny. I also received this book from the publisher via NetGalley in return for an honest review. I gave it 3 stars. It was a fun, quick read. These books would make excellent presents for maybe Christmas. Christmas is coming up. I feel like there would be excellent little stocking fillers. There's so many different ones. I'm going to be reviewing 2 more in a moment too. But this one was really funny, but not quite as funny as I was expecting it to be. I thought that this one was going to be my favourite one of the 3 that I personally picked up, and it was actually my least favourite. But it's still a really entertaining, quick read, and the pictures versus what is on the text is just fantastic. So in the same vein, the next book I want to talk about is the Fireside Grown-Up Guide to the Mom. And I gave this one 4 stars. I absolutely adored this one. I also got this one from the publisher via NetGalley in return for an honest review, and I couldn't believe my luck that they actually allowed me 3 of these books. So as I said, this one is probably my favourite one. It was entertaining, it was so true. The pictures sort of really took you back to the old Ladybird books. The text was just like, I was like, yeah, like this one would make a fantastic Christmas present. Then we have the Fireside Grown-Up Guide to the Husband. Again, I got this one from the publisher, and I've got to say, this one was also absolutely amazing. I gave this one 4 stars. This one was hilarious. Probably the one that made me laugh the most out of the 3. I was just like, oh my god. Like, honestly, the pictures again really make it with the text. These are so wonderful, and this one might be making its way, no, I can't say that actually. He watches my videos, so I can't say that this one might be making its way into my boyfriend's Christmas pile. But I definitely recommend this one for partners. This is just fantastic. Then the next book I want to talk about is a book that I buddy read with Aoife over at Fred Weasley Died Laughing, and I will leave a link to her channel down below. And it is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alair Sands. And I've heard so many things about this book on BookTube, mainly good, until me and Aoife read it, and I was like, why do people absolutely worship this book? It's good, but it's not excellent. And if you're not aware, this book is a YA novel, and it's got LGBT aspects to it, and honestly, I didn't know what to think about this book. I gave this book 4 stars in the end, simply because I did enjoy the overall story. The pacing was fantastic. The chapters are really short. I flew through this book. This is definitely the book that actually helped pull me out of the reading slump that I've been in for most of this year. I think it's the fastest I've read a book in ages, like a proper sized book. The pacing is wonderful. The characters are quite easy to fall in love with for the most part. I could not stand Ari for most of the novel, to be honest. He was a whiny little brat. He seemed so entitled to thinking that the world owed him something. Meanwhile, Dante is just the most adorable boy ever. I think the strong thing for this novel is that it shows family relationships and different families, and the strengths and the weaknesses, and how families can overcome certain issues, and it's a really strong novel in that sense. But me and Aoife both just felt like there's quite a forced kind of relationship towards the end of the book that just didn't feel true. And so, yeah, if that had not been so forced and so like, you feel like this, we'd both probably have enjoyed this book even more. Next I want to talk about an audiobook, and that is Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. And I listened to the audiobook for this and I only gave it 2 stars. Now I have seen the films many times in most cases and I enjoy them. They're not my favourites, I don't hate them by any means, they're just good films. If I see it on TV I'll leave it on, I find it enjoyable. I don't have any issues with the actual plot or anything of Jurassic Park, and that was the same with the audiobook. I didn't have any issues with the plot. The plot was great, it was gripping. My issue was, and the narrator could not help this at all, the narrator did as good a job as they could. My issue simply was that I had no connection with the characters at all. I didn't give a flying monkeys who was going to get eaten by a dinosaur or anything. I couldn't have cared. In fact, I'd probably have celebrated if everyone got eaten, quite frankly. And I just didn't actually care. I probably cared more about the dinosaurs and the characters. That's really bad. My also main issue with this was it was just too scientific. I feel like the film does a good job of dumbing the science down a little bit, and maybe that's just my issue. Maybe science just isn't my thing, and reading great big massive chunks of this book, if I'd have read the physical copy, I definitely wouldn't have got through this. So the audio narrator did an excellent job in actually getting me through the book, because I don't know how I'd have got through the science otherwise. It was just so info dumpy and so dense, and I just didn't like it. I feel like if you're quite of a scientific mind, then you might actually enjoy this book a lot more than me, so I wouldn't put my 2-star rating with much thought in that sense. It's just not my cup of tea. And the final book I want to talk to you about in this wrap up is The Witches by Roald Dahl. And I read this as part of the rereadathon the other week, and I have not read this book in so many years, and this was such a treat. I have been wanting to read this book all year, and I can't believe that I finally got around to it, and it was so much better than I ever could have imagined. I gave this book 5 stars, but if I could have given it 10 stars then I would. If you've never read The Witches, what are you doing with your life? Read The Witches. And if you've never seen the film, again, I highly recommend you pick the film up because the film is fantastic as well. The film goes in a slightly different way at the ending to what the book does, but that's not an issue for me. I enjoy them both separately as separate things. The book though, oh wow. I can't believe that as an adult I was scared while reading a children's book. That is just such a fantastic feeling. So many adult books struggle to make me scared. Yet a children's book, I was like, sat there like, I wonder if witches really do exist, like some sort of nervous wreck. Kept thinking, this could be true. I know, I've lost my mind a little bit, but it's told in such a convincing way. The narrative style is so convincing, so amazing and beautiful and believable, and it feels like you're reading a genuine tale about something that has happened to someone. The illustrations, as ever by Quentin Blake, are just outstanding. The witches look particularly gruesome, especially the Grand High Witch when she peels her mask off and everything. That is a spectacularly gruesome page, let me tell you. But oh my goodness, do witches exist? So thank you so much for watching this wrap up. As I said, I will be back tomorrow with a weekly reading wrap up of what I've read during the last week. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more book reviews and other bookish content from me, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye!